I'll never forget the day it all started. It was the middle of July, and the heat was so brutal that even the pavement looked like it was melting. My little boy, Jacob, had been running around with his friends outside, and when he came in, his cheeks were red as fire. He begged me for some water. That's when I had the idea. The idea that would turn my life upside down. You see, I'm the kind of dad who can't stand watching people suffer, especially kids. I looked out my window, and I saw neighborhood kids biking, sweating, struggling to stay cool. That's when I said to Emily, my wife, what if I put out the old water cooler on the porch? Just fill it with ice and water, free for anyone walking by. Something simple. Emily looked at me like I was a little crazy, but she smiled. Honestly, it's a sweet idea. Just remember where we live. She meant the HOA. Now, if you've ever lived under a homeowners association, you know. They control everything. What color you paint your house, how tall your grass is, even what kind of mailbox you're allowed to have. Our HOA was run by Marjorie Clark, the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood. And Marjorie had a reputation. People called her Karen Clark behind her back, but never to her face. I shrugged. It's just water. How could anyone have a problem with that? So I did it. I dragged the old blue cooler out of the garage, filled it with ice, and set it right by the porch steps with a little handwritten sign. Stay cool. Free water. Within an hour, kids were stopping by. One little girl, no more than 6, smiled up at me with water dripping down her chin. Thank you, mister. It warmed my heart. But apparently, not everyone felt the same way. The very next morning, taped to my door was a bright yellow slip of paper, an HOA violation notice. Unauthorized structure visible from street. I laughed at first. It's not a structure, it's a cooler. Emily frowned. You know this isn't the end of it, right? I brushed it off, thinking it would go away. But oh, I was so wrong. Because that cooler, that simple act of kindness, it was about to start a war. And trust me, you won't believe how far the HOA was willing to go. The next HOA board meeting was where things really blew up. I walked into the community center, violation slip in hand, ready to reason with them. Emily warned me not to go, but I figured, hey, logic will win, right? The board sat in a row like judges, and in the middle was Marjorie Clark herself. She was in her late 50s, perfectly styled blonde bob, pearls around her neck, and a smile so fake it could have been printed. Mr. Miller, she said in that condescending tone people use when they've already decided they're better than you. We've received reports about your cooler. It's just water, I said, holding my ground. It's 100 degrees outside. Kids need hydration. Marjorie gave a little laugh. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but rules are rules. No unapproved items in front yards. It's in the bylaws. From the corner of the room, I heard a voice. Mr. Green, my elderly neighbor, leaned forward. Come on, Marjorie. It's water, for heaven's sake. But Marjorie's smile didn't budge. Today, it's a cooler. Tomorrow, it's lawn ornaments, unsightly decorations, chaos. I could feel my blood boiling. Chaos? It's a plastic cooler with ice water for kids. You're acting like I built a garage without a permit. The room chuckled, but Marjorie's eyes narrowed. Mr. Miller, remove the cooler, or fines will begin. That was it. No discussion, no compromise, just her word as law. I left the meeting furious, Emily walking beside me. She touched my arm. Don't let her get to you. But she already had. Because I knew one thing. Marjorie wasn't just enforcing rules. She was making an example out of me. And I wasn't about to let her win. But I had no idea how ugly the fight was about to get. The fine started small. $25 for the first day, then $50, then $75. Each notice came in the mail like clockwork, with bold red letters, "Failure to comply." Emily begged me to just take the cooler down. "Please, Dan, it's not worth it." But every time I saw a neighborhood kid stop by, filling their cup and smiling, it reminded me why I put it there in the first place. Then came the breaking point. One Saturday, I was mowing my lawn when I noticed Marjorie standing on the sidewalk across the street, arms crossed, snapping photos of my cooler like some kind of neighborhood cop. I walked over. "Seriously? You have nothing better to do?" She smirked. "Just documenting violations. It's my duty." My fists clenched. I wanted to say more, but that's when Deputy Carson, the local law enforcement officer, pulled up in his cruiser. He stepped out, adjusting his hat. "Afternoon, folks." Marjorie lit up like Christmas. "Deputy, thank goodness you're here. This man refuses to follow community rules." Carson raised an eyebrow. "Over a water cooler?" It's unauthorized. It lowers property values." Carson looked at me, then at the cooler, then back at her. "Ma'am, I don't see a crime here. Maybe y'all can handle this civilly." For the first time, I saw her mask crack. Her lips tightened. But that was when I realized she wasn't just after me. She wanted control, total control. And if I didn't fight back, she'd never stop. But I wasn't fighting alone anymore. The neighborhood was starting to notice. It started small. A neighbor, Mrs. Patel, stopped by and dropped off a bag of ice. "For the cooler," she whispered with a smile. Then another neighbor left a stack of paper cups on my porch, and then another offered bottled water. Before long, the cooler wasn't just mine, it was the neighborhood's. And that drove Marjorie insane. She sent mass emails warning everyone about the dangers of unregulated front yard fixtures. She even accused me of creating a safety hazard. But the more she fought, the more people rallied. One evening, Mr. Green stood in his yard and shouted across the street, "Leave the man alone, Marjorie. It's just water." Cheers erupted from porches. That night, Emily squeezed my hand. "I think people are ready to stand up to her." And she was right. A week later, petitions started circulating. "Recall the HOA board." People were signing left and right. Marjorie called an emergency meeting. She stood at the front, red-faced, voice shaking. "This cooler is a threat to order. If we let one man defy the rules, everything falls apart." I stood and faced her. "No, Marjorie, what's falling apart is your control. People are tired of being bullied." The room erupted in shouts, neighbors yelling, some defending her, most supporting me. And in that chaos, I knew the battle lines were drawn. The next step? A recall vote that could change everything. The night of the recall meeting felt like a movie. The community hall was packed. People fanned themselves with papers, voices low, tension high. Marjorie sat stiffly at the head table, her pearls practically rattling with anger. The petition had been verified. A vote would decide if she and the board stayed or were thrown out. When it was my turn to speak, I stood slowly. My palms were sweaty, but I took a deep breath. "I didn't start this fight. I put out a cooler because it was hot and kids were thirsty. That's it. But instead of compassion, I got fines, I got harassment, and now this isn't about a cooler anymore. It's about whether this community is run with kindness or with fear." The room erupted in applause. Marjorie's face turned crimson. She stood, pointing at me. "You are a troublemaker. If you don't like the rules, move." But that was her mistake.
because the crowd turned on her. Shouts of "Enough!" and "We're done with you!" filled the room. The vote was taken. The board was recalled. For the first time in years, Marjorie looked small, powerless. But it wasn't over, because she wasn't going down without a fight. And that's when the lawyers got involved. A month later, I found myself standing in a courtroom facing Marjorie and the remnants of her board. They had filed suit, claiming I violated covenants and caused damages. I remember sitting there, heart pounding, Emily's hand gripping mine. Our lawyer argued simply. This man put out water during a heat wave. He was fined thousands of dollars for an act of kindness. This is abuse of power.
Marjorie took the stand, ranting about standards and property values, but the judge's face said it all. When the verdict came, my knees nearly buckled. The court finds in favor of the defendant. The HOA's actions were unreasonable. All fines avoided. Case dismissed. The gavel hit. It was over. Neighbors hugged me in the hallway. Mr. Green clapped me on the back. "You did it, son. You stood up." Marjorie stormed past us, face twisted with rage, but her reign was finished. That night, as I refilled the cooler, kids ran up laughing and grabbing cups of water. Emily leaned on the porch rail, smiling. "You know," she said softly, "it was never just about the cooler." And she was right, because in the end, the cooler didn't just break the HOA. It reminded a whole neighborhood that kindness is stronger than fear.